MTN SME Hub. Link to growth. Link to success. Link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. In studio with us, we've got Rhulani Hlungwani. She's MD of Bold Pearl. And the question today is, how do you take all these different parts of the business and, as you put it, from two strategies to one strategy? How to make it one? So, to me, the question that I think you need to start asking yourself now is, if you have to divisionalize this business into different divisions. Divisions are market-facing, different markets that from a central place. So you do one thing and then you serve different markets with different variations of products in that space. So in my mind, there might be three divisions. There'll be a manufacturing division, an upholstery division, and a rental division. Okay. And those are three divisions. That's one way to think about it and say, that's how I'm thinking about it in my structure. The second thing, the question to ask now is around your core competencies. What is common to all three? Because if there's no commonality, I kept asking you, I started off saying what's common in all three, what's common in the two, what's common, and you keep talking about manufacturing is common. But the way that your route to market is your route to market is what you're wanting through some sort of retail, one is through rental, one is through also manufactured. It's a different product set, but one's manufactured, one's upholstery. So I think maybe the problem is bigger in your head than in reality, in the sense that there is one strategy, and if the strategy is then that you build your core competence, and one of the competencies is the ability to manufacture bespoke furniture very quickly, then that might be the one core competence in the differentiator in the market. If you say that, let's follow that through into the three divisions. Bold Pearl manufactures furniture, bespoke furniture quickly. You'll make sexier words than that. In rental, you have an option for, here's the standard, but do you want specialized stuff rented? It's higher price, but we can specialize in doing that, and we can rent that to you, and it'll just be at a higher price, but we can do that in a rental environment. So you might, for example, have a very fancy wedding, and they want the bride and groom to sit on some fancy chair. You can rent that to them at a much higher price if you think that you can re-rent that chair again, that kind of thing. The same thing in terms of the upholstery is that we'll return that to you quickly. And from a manufacturing perspective, we can put together this cover with this frame, with this whatever, this finish in 24, 48 hours. So therefore, your whole thinking is around speed and bespokeness. Downside of that is that there's a lot more items that you have to hold, but your core competence then needs to be around speed. So that's your order taking, how you take in the order, your brief needs to be brilliant. The way that the way that the factory is set up to handle that needs to be brilliant. The way that it's distributed needs to be brilliant. The way that you store that fancy chair afterwards from the bride and groom needs to be brilliant. Everything needs to be around the fact that you can operate with this core competence very, very well. Okay, so I'm not too worried from a perspective of, are you in too many things? But the question that I have now is the question I started off is, what business are you in? You have to define the business that you're in. Then you're in the manufacturing business. And you're not in the rental business. You're in the manufacturing business. But if you're in the rental business, then think about that. If you had answered the question, I'm in the rental business, then the questions would be, what else could you rent other than furniture? Because you're not in the manufacturing business. If you said, I'm in the furniture rental business, so what other furniture could I rent? So you mentioned indoor furniture, that you do. So now I'm in the indoor furniture rental business. Okay, now you've come quite tight, which is great. That's great that you've tightened that up. But then what other furniture can I put in there? You're not asking what other routes to market or upholstery. So if you are going there, the answer to your question, I'm in the rental business, you've got a different strategy you're going to follow, which is what else can I rent effectively? How else can I rent better margin in rental? That's the business you're in. If you're in the manufacturing business, it's what do I manufacture? How do I manufacture that better and faster, etc., to all my three channels to market? So even though I say I've got no problem with the three, I think the more important question that you have to ask is what business you're in. You have to make that decision because it feels like you're torn between, you're not torn between the two strategies. You actually don't know which business you're in because you're in two businesses and you're saying what strategy serves both those businesses. And you can't have two strategies in one business, so you have to choose the business you're in. So your biggest question to answer today is not which one of the three to choose or which two out of the three to choose. You have to choose now which business you're in. It will determine what you do with the other things. That's what you have to go one step earlier to do that. If you're in the rental business, then you're going to have to think about systems, process, software. What are the capital requirements of renting more stuff, holding more stock? That's why I was going to ask you, what are your biggest three decisions? If I heard your answer, they were all manufacturing decisions, right? You weren't saying, I have to find a better software for rental. Okay, you didn't answer that way. It was all around more machinery, more this. But you did make a slip up in the beginning. I heard that, where you said, oh, I want to have a showroom, which is more retail.
Yes.
So then I'd ask the question, are you in the retail business? Which you're not, right? But so that tells you don't do that, or that's not, rather if you're in the manufacturing business, then go into the manufacturing business and be brilliant at that and see the others as channel to market. So I know there was a lot, okay? But I think when you watch this again, you'll and follow the logic, you'll come down to, in my guess, that you're a manufacturing business that's come from a rental business. However, I'd also look at the numbers. If I'm confusing you even more, if all your money is made in the rental, then just do that better and do more of that. So I am confusing you between the two, okay? But only I don't have access to the numbers, but that's your choice. What business are you in? I hope that gave you some things to think about, and I hope that gave you some things to think about. And do remember, if you think it, write it down and make it a reality.
The Big Small Business Show, proudly sponsored by MTN Business.